Hi everyone. This is most likely going to be my last video I'm going to make for the class. I want to talk about quiz number 4 and then also just a few little added items and some reminders about your final interview project. So I threw out 4 items from the quiz this time, although you all did really pretty well on this quiz. Oh, sorry. Let me get my glasses. Should have been better prepared, but I'm not going to start and stop this video. So I want to review these 4 right now. A couple of them came from Chapter 10, and so I want to highlight those. Okay. First question I threw out: if we are interested in the current experiences of an inner city man, in order for our project to be considered a case study, it must be A, one instance of a broad category of events, B, full of oral traditions, C, covert operations, or D, all of the above. Okay, a lot of you chose all of the above. The correct answer here is one instance of a broad category of events. Okay, you might have that it's full of oral traditions. Maybe that's not really the purpose of the case study, but in time, as you're interviewing somebody, some of the oral sort of traditions and experiences may emerge. So if only those 2 had been in there, I would have accepted it as all of the above. The one that was sort of the dead giveaway here was covert operation or observations. If you're doing a case study, you wouldn't be hiding. You might be doing observations, but you wouldn't be hiding or hidden to where the subject of the case study didn't know you existed. So that is why it's not none of the above, or all of the above, excuse me. The correct answer is one instance of a broad category of events. Okay. The next one I dropped was: if Emily is interested in doing a case study with a victim's family from 9/11, this case study would require what? Well, the options are primary sources only, which would not be right because you wouldn't be able to actually interview the victim. Multiple methods or sources, that's the correct answer. C, only detailed interviewing, or D, only tertiary sources. Now, nobody chose tertiary sources, which was good. But some of you chose only detailed interviewing. Okay, so when something is so extreme, like only this or always that, that can sometimes be a giveaway. Not always, but sometimes that kind of language should sort of draw your attention and think only detailed interviewing. If I'm going to be talking to a victim's family, I'm going to be talking with multiple sources, obviously. So that's one reason why number 2, multiple methods and sources, is correct. So you're going to have multiple sources of the family if you're really trying to understand what it was like. But you're also going to need to understand other sources, like would you be reading up in the newspaper, reading in journal articles, reading different things that sort of help you understand some of the events around 9/11? Would you be going back and trying to piece together like who the victim was? Did they work in the Twin Towers? What did they do? Were there people who witnessed this? Actually witnessed the death of the individual. There's lots of multiple sources that you'd want to investigate. So only interviewing would not be accurate. You'd want to be looking at unobtrusive measures and all kinds of things to piece together the story about a person's life who can't tell their story. But you would want to know how the families responded, how maybe the person's employer responded, their children, their friends, what unobtrusive measures existed about that day that you could access. So that is the correct answer there, but I did throw it out. Okay, the third question I threw out, and this is a tricky one, I will admit. If Fadwa has a theory, okay, right there, that warm showers help to soothe her child before bed because they help to create relaxation and promote sleep, and then she tests that theory by collecting data on her child, this is an example of an inductive approach. True or false? The answer is false. This is deduction. She has a theory. She starts out with an explicit theory that she's going to give her child warm showers, and that's going to promote better sleep and relaxation. So that is a deductive approach, not an inductive approach. You wouldn't have that straight and narrow of a theory. And then the other operative word here is she tests the theory out by collecting data. So that is much more of a deductive approach than an inductive approach. So that is why the answer is false, that this is not an inductive approach as compared to a deductive approach, but I went ahead and threw it out. Okay, final question I threw out was about the Reisman article on marital violence. In Marital Violence article by Reisman, the victim does not view her circumstance as having been rape. True or false? The answer is false. Over time and through exploration, that woman comes to understand that indeed her husband had been raping her. But in the beginning, you know, when she was in that circumstance, as she describes, she didn't really understand that it was rape. But in the end, when she was able to get out of that situation, she understood that that was rape, you know, that she was being forced to have sex against her will. And so the correct answer there was false, but I went ahead and threw it out because it was missed at such a high rate. So that's that. There's no more quizzes. I'm sure you're glad. And, you know, I have a love-hate relationship with quizzes because I know, you know, part of my job is to help prepare you for the licensing exam, to help you think about scenarios. In this week's test, obviously, a couple of those were scenario questions, and those can be a little bit more difficult. And again, that's how the licensing exam is there's some questions that are pretty easy. You hope that you see 100%. I saw that on multiple questions on the test where everybody that had that question got it 100% right. Those would be sort of basic recall questions that I'm pleased. I want everybody to do well on those questions. Then when we start getting up into the little bit more difficult reasoning and application questions, that's where generally I start to see students fall out. You know, because I look at quiz statistics, I still end up throwing some of those questions out because I'm sort of curving the test. But it's important for you to know that, you know, those are kind of trickier questions at times, and I'm not trying to trick you, and I understand that some of my questions, you know, may be trickier. Some of them are trickier, and you really have to sort of think about it. So that is that. Please don't forget that you do have extra credit quiz open this week, maximum of 6 points. Just take it, get whatever you can. It's just pulling from questions in the test bank from all the chapters, so it's worth it to try it out. For those of you that did post on the discussion board, the extra credit discussion board, those extra credit points have been added to your grade as well. So the extra credit quiz expires next Thursday by midnight, so make sure to do that. And really, obviously, the last big chunk is your final interview paper. I cannot stress enough to follow the assignment instructions. They are detailed, they are long, that's for a reason. A couple of questions that came out of my seated class yesterday about the final paper. Make sure that the transcript is accurate. Make sure that you say whatever questions. I mean, it needs to be detailed of what happened within the context of that interview. Question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. Somebody asked me yesterday, well, if there's noises in the background or people are fidgeting, should you be making note of that in your transcript? And my general answer is no, you do not do that. Now, in your analysis part, you might be saying, well, I did notice that my interviewee appeared to be nervous. They were twitching when I asked certain questions, or they were rattling a bottle, or they appeared to have some behaviors. Of course, you don't know that that's true unless you ask them. If you ask them, are you nervous right now? Then that would be part of the transcript in terms of noises and things that are going on in the background or whatever extraneous stuff. You don't need to detail that in your transcript. So remember, then sections B and C of your rough draft are the sections that you're going to give back to your interviewee. Have them read it. Have them edit it. They need to initial it and sign it, or sign with initials and date. And so you'll be turning in your transcript. You'll be turning in your rough draft, sections B and C. Now, some of you may have done the whole paper and given the whole paper to the person, and that's fine too, but it's sections B and C of a rough draft that I'm looking for with a signature and a date and any edits that your participant had. And then you will turn in your final proofread professional copy where you've incorporated any edits that that person has made, and that is your finished product. Please be careful for things like proofreading. Again, I will stress it's good to read your paper out loud. It's good to have somebody else read it to catch little grammatical things. That is very important to me, that I see that, you know, the paper is professionally written using the headings I've given you. And I'm looking forward to reading them. I always do. This to me is really an interesting assignment. I like looking at your transcript. I like looking at, and if you have looked at the sample transcript that I put up for you weeks ago, the one point about that you can see is I was the interviewer. This is a interview I did, just a small excerpt of an interview I did a long, long time ago for my dissertation. And you can see, like, oh, I make lots of errors. I ask some really silly questions. Sometimes I ask leading questions. You know, interviewing is hard. So I'm not going to be assessing, when I look at your transcript, I'm not going to be saying, oh, geez, you know, that person missed an opportunity to ask a probing question or a follow-up question, or, oh, why did they ask that question? Or, oh, you know, I'm not going to be judging you for that. Now, I know in other assignments, I've sort of made comments about these are all closed-ended questions. These are all, you know, we really need open-ended questions. Well, you have your set of open-ended questions. So those questions I expect to see in the transcript that you've asked. They're all open-ended. But if you have follow-up questions you've asked somebody and those are closed-ended, which happens on the fly all the time, that's okay. I'm not going to be judging you for that. What I'm really looking at is what you took from this interview, a quality transcript that you've produced, which is time-consuming. Then I am also looking for your analysis of the themes that you found, based upon the person's words and what they had to say, and, you know, then ties to the content of the text, which is also very important, and you need to reference where you are, you know, if you're pulling something like symbolic interactionism or some other kind of concept, then you need to cite what that concept is, and then your overall impressions. So, you know, it's an important project. I hope that it brings you some level of connection as well to the person that you're interviewing. Often it does, and that's the part at the end where you sort of get to describe what it was like to do this, you know, pitfalls, I mean, things you noticed yourself doing and all of that. So with that said, I also want to reiterate, I know I've sent you emails and I've made posts, and when I read, those of you that did do the extra credit posting about your impressions of the class, I just want to, again, really commend the class. I've enjoyed it. It has been a bit of a rough semester in so many ways, as I'm sure many of you have experienced ups and downs and challenges, transitions and terminations in your personal lives and possibly professional lives, or both. But overall, I've really appreciated the conscientiousness of this class. I appreciate the comments that you have for feedback to me. Please do your final course evaluations online. I can see who has and who has not done them. I can't, of course, see what you specifically say, and I can't ever specifically see what you say, but I see the results after the grades have been posted for the class. But I can see up till now who's completed an evaluation. So I might be sending you emails because it's very important to me. This is a research class. I should value your feedback and evaluation, which I do. As a professor, I take it very seriously, how my students are feeling, what can be improved, what can't be improved. You know, I do appreciate all the positive feedback that you left me, but I also, in the discussion board, but I also look for things and, you know, criticisms or comments or room for improvements that I really do take very seriously. You know, it has been an interesting challenge to have been off work for a sabbatical and still trying to finish up my research and engage in my research, at the same time getting reacclimated back to working. I had an advisee in here the other day and who was asking how it all went. When I was on sabbatical, and I said, you know, since I've been 15 years old, I've basically had a job where there was somewhere I needed to be at some time, always. You know, so last semester was an interesting experience for my life, very transformational, primarily because of the research I've been doing with the undocumented Latino population. But regardless of transitions and changes and challenges that we all face, I've really enjoyed this class, and you know, I appreciate the respect that you've shown me and your classmates, and the effort that you put in to your assignments, to your CSAs. I know the quizzes are probably the toughest part of this class, and that's why I try to balance and have a lot of other ways for you to be successful. And I also really appreciated in the discussion board how some of you pointed out the things that you could also improve on. And, you know, I really appreciate that. So this will be my last video. I'll be working very hard at grading your papers quickly because I will be going out of town right after graduation. I'm going back to New York City. I miss it that much. So this time for pleasure, not for a sabbatical or research, but just to sort of go back to a place that had a big impact on my life last semester. So anyway, I hope you all have a great finish to your semester and a great summer. For those of you that are graduating, I will see you there. For those of you that continue on, I did make in the discussion board post the point that I will no longer be teaching qualitative research. I have elected to teach only qualitative research, both now at the bachelor's and the master's level, because I love qualitative research just that much, and because I've been doing it this semester, and well, you know, professionally doing it with my study. And so we have a new faculty coming that will be teaching the quantitative sections of both bachelor's and master's. She's coming out of KU. We're looking forward to having her here. And I think that you will have an enjoyable experience with her. She will be a full faculty person and just finished her PhD recently. And I've been in communication with her a bunch, talking to her about how I taught quantitative research. So I think you will be in good hands for those of you that have to take yet one more semester of research. Anyway, have a great summer, and thanks for being a great class. I've really enjoyed it, and thanks for watching this. Hopefully you're watching it. Okay, take care.